I wanted to be able to have everything and do everything and be able to be like Superman, you know? And it's, it's just it's not reality. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease you're born with. It pretty much causes all this extra thick mucus in my lungs to make me cough and all these repeated infections. And over time, kind of destroys the lungs. I was first diagnosed, I think, around 3 months. My parents noticed I was not only not gaining weight, but losing weight. And I had a persistent cough. First time I remembered I was different from some of my peers was I had already moved into a different elementary school. And I got teased a little bit. And so I went home and asked my mom, what is it that makes me different again? I asked her to tell me what it was. I asked her to spell it for me. That's when it all kind of clicked, and I realized, okay, so this is it, makes me different, and this is what I have, and this is what it's called that causes me to do all this other stuff.
I've been taking care of patients with cystic fibrosis for the last 30 years or so, and Sam has been my patient for on and off for many of those 30 years. If you think about any organ system that produces mucus, cystic fibrosis is involved. We think of it as a lung disease because that's where most of the problems occur, but the sinuses, the lungs, the gastrointestinal tract, obviously the pancreas, the liver, all get involved in cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic disease where you'd think this was just a minor thing, but chloride ions don't travel across cell membranes well because of a mutation in a protein that is supposed to transport those chloride ions. But the consequences of that little chloride ion not being able to move where it's supposed to are really pretty great. The fact that the chloride ions can't move in and out of the cell means that the layer of mucus that hydrates the lung, the periciliary layer, can't be maintained properly. Because that layer is not maintained properly, the cilia don't move. Because the cilia don't move, all the stuff that we breathe in from our nicely polluted air, etc., can't get out of our lung.
My whole life, I always saw myself doing everything that everyone else did, go to college, get a job, get married, have kids, whatever, own a house. I mean, my life is just going to be like everybody else's. And, I kind of kept that very simple mindset no matter how old I got, no matter how sick I got. I went to college, I met Marissa, we got married. I mean, I did it.
When I met Sam, I was working at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and we met through a mutual friend, somebody that I worked with, and somebody that Sam had known growing up. I knew that cystic fibrosis would affect our lives. I kind of knew the down and dirty of it, and how bad the disease could be.
After my lung collapsed and they talked to me about pulmonary function test wise, numbers wise, you're here, and we start to talk about transplant here. I just thought to myself, there's no way at 18 I'm gonna go down that road. So my sophomore year was a lot different. I didn't go home on the weekends. I stayed, I did everything I was supposed to do, school-wise, treatment-wise. I put on like 30 pounds. I did everything I could to kind of distance myself from where I had been.
When Sam and I first started dating, he was extremely healthy, and his weight was great, his PFTs were great. He was so diligent about making sure that he kept up with his regimen and doing everything that he needed to do.
When you have patients with a chronic disease like this, is they look up their disease. They look up things. They come in and tell me, I just read this, that there's a new treatment, or so-and-so is doing this.
Sam is very knowledgeable about his disease, always has been. He's researched it from the time he was a child. He's constantly up to date on what's new and great. He's constantly quizzing us and making sure we know what we're doing.
He is very knowledgeable in his care. He knows how things need to be done, how he wants them to be done, and he has his own routine.
And the patients, they really want to be part of their treatment because, they're not just sitting there, having antibiotics poured into them, and they're out there living and they want to live and they want to be as healthy as they can. He's an avid tennis player and actually I played him in ping pong once. That was just very embarrassing.
Coming out of grad school, I had a lot of opportunities, went through the normal recruiting and interviewing process and got a job. And it was a lot, there's a lot of, it added a lot of different variables once I had to think about a job and my health. And I knew I had to do 3 treatments a day. I knew I had to get up early for work. I'd be up late doing treatments. I'd be up early doing treatments. It didn't take many years for it to finally kind of take everything out of me.
I didn't realize that it would get to this point so soon because he's always taken such great care of himself. So, and I just, I guess I didn't think that the nature of the disease would progress this quickly.
It wasn't a difficult choice last fall to stop work because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. I couldn't even sit here without oxygen. I require oxygen just to sit here and talk.
As a home nurse or home infusion nurse, the big thing is when you go into a home, you not only assess the patient and his needs, but you also assess the surrounding, the environment, the family, what are their needs.
This year has been a particularly rough year for us. I do sometimes get very frustrated. It's hard when, I'm the only person who's working outside of the home.
It was hard to go from working the long hours, being part of the business world, making something of my degree, being a good earner, and having, seemingly having it all, to now I sit at home and, struggle doing daily activities, and I collect disability. It's not something you like to think about. You kind of just have to move forward.
What's going to make you a good nurse is to listen to the patient. And when I say listen, I don't mean writing on your paperwork, as I said, your tablets, anything that you're doing, documenting why you're there and what you're doing. You put it down and you look at the patient and you listen to what they say.
It's not just to walk into the room, I'm the doctor, you're the patient. And that's the way it's going to be, and that's the way it will be, and you do what I say. That's just not the way it works in the real world. You have to have some kind of connection with them in order for them to believe that what you're doing is best for them, and that they are not just another number who walked into your office.
When Sam and I decided that we wanted to have children, it was both something that we really desired, something we both felt very strongly about, and I knew that it would be difficult, that it would be a difficult road, and that we would have to do in vitro fertilization. I knew that this was not something that was just going to happen naturally.
Because we had to go to a fertility specialist, and we did everything we were supposed to do, and it went through the IVF process the first time around, and it was a really tough thing, specifically for Marissa because of the different drugs she had to take.
So, and it's very costly. So, the first time we did it, it was about $22,000.
And it was hard, and we got through it, and ended up, probably one of the worst days of our lives is when we found out that she wasn't pregnant. The embryos didn't take.
Sam and I both had doubts as to whether or not we were making the right decision and whether or not having a child grow up with the possibility of only having one parent later on in life. That was something that we definitely discussed and something that we definitely thought about.
Well, we had conversations. We did have very blunt conversations about, okay, maybe this is a sign from God that we shouldn't have kids. Maybe, I'm going to die in the next few years and you shouldn't be left alone with a baby. And we had those honest heart-to-hearts. We said we'd rather have Mercer here with our baby if I passed away than Mercer here with no one.
We decided to go ahead and try again in January of 2013, and to our surprise, we ended up pregnant with Owen.
Owen is definitely the one fail-safe positive, no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter how bad it's getting, no matter how sad we are, no matter how mad we are. He's our one positive saving grace. Someone once told me, it's like it's a different disease when you're a child as opposed to when you're an adult. And that couldn't be more true. Once you get older and start to develop all these things, physiologically what happens to your lungs, there's really no recovering from. So you just have to start to live with it, and you just kind of have to end up doing all these other different things, all these other different medicines, all these longer IVs, and kind of all compounds.
I'm always so impressed at how well he does it. 8 doses a day of IV meds. One of them he has to mix every time before he gives it, and they don't follow each other. You have to put them on a spreadsheet, and you have to try to sleep in between there. Then he has his pulmonary treatments on top of that, and keeping up with his nutrition and his calorie intake for the day. And this is when he's at his worst. He's very sick, at these points with some sort of an infection, and he's dealing with this.
Sam, one night, he was just not having a good night. He didn't feel good. His bones ached. He was a little short. He was like, let's just hurry up and get this over with. And I didn't think twice about it. I understood. I didn't take it personal. And you can't take those things personal. Those are issues you have to be comfortable with too, and not internalize, not to take things personal. They're gonna have probably more bad days than good days.
Working at the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation prepared me for the fact that I knew that he would have to be doing treatments 3 times a day. It prepared me for the possibility of a shortened life expectancy. It also prepared me for the possibility of Sam needing a lung transplant.
I never wanted to accept the idea that I was going to do a lung transplant.
It was a very difficult subject for me to bring up with Sam. He would get very upset when I would bring it up, and he would just always say that he felt like it was him losing his battle to CF, like him giving in if he got a lung transplant. And I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as him getting a new lease on life.
When you're younger, you don't think it'll ever happen to you. But years and years and years and years after exacerbations and after infections, the lungs just can't take it. It's a physiological, it's a physical, it's an actual fact that your lungs are getting destroyed. If you're 18 and you think you're invincible, you're really not. You think you're doing pretty well, you might not be 5 years from now. So don't slack off, don't put work in front of your health. Don't, be more be more thoughtful with your life. I have bronchiectasis, which there are holes in my lungs, and at a certain point, you're not even fighting the CF anymore. You're fighting the damage that's been done to your lungs that will never be reversed. So there's really no treatment for that. And so, my mom said that to me one night, and I went up to bed, and I got up to the top of the stairs. I could barely breathe, and Marissa, I guess it kind of woke up Marissa, and I said, I'm going to do the transplant. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to work my ass off afterwards. I'm going to stay really healthy. I'm going to be one of these patients that you read about who, are 20 plus years out, still doing well with their lungs.
He's already a wonderful father, but I know that it has a lot of physical stress on him. And, I just know that if everything goes well with the lung transplant, he's going to be able to do everything that he can see himself doing with Owen. I never imagined that this is what my life would be like. Sometimes I feel like I've reached my limit, and I just, I'll just cry because it's hard to not know what tomorrow is going to bring, and just to not know how things, when he's going to get his transplant, and how he's going to do after the transplant. And it's hard. It's really hard, but I wouldn't change anything in our relationship. If anything, Sam has taught me how to love more, how to live each day to its fullest.
I have no quality of life right now, but the thing about life is it has its qualities. It's like there's some pretty interesting things going on now, even though I'm the sickest I've ever been. We can still find time to laugh at certain things that are going on and be happy and to experience the small things and small joys.
Unfortunately, Sam lost his battle with cystic fibrosis in December of 2014. And this is always something that's very hard, because, as I said before, Sam always did what he was supposed to do. And this is something that, as a physician, you have to learn to deal with, because, you get to know these patients. As I said before, they become part of your family, you become part of their family. And so when they pass away, it's a loved one who passes away. It's not just someone who's on the street. And it's hard to deal with. You have to realize that you're not a failure just because your patient died. The patient had a fatal disease. As a psychiatrist I went to see to try to figure out how to deal with this told me once, if you expect your patients with fatal diseases to live forever, you are going to fail. I lost another patient at the end of last year also, who was also waiting for a transplant. She just got really sick and had to have surgery and never recovered. And it's not like she didn't get the best of care or Sam didn't get the best of care. They did. It's just that we're just in the 21st century and we don't know everything yet. And it is still a fatal disease. And if there's a way to wave a magic wand and make that different, I would do it. Unfortunately, there's no magic wands either. One of the good things in cystic fibrosis is the progress we've made over the years. when CF was first identified as a disease back in the late 1930s, the life expectancy of a child with CF was about 18 months. When I first started taking care of CF patients a little over 20 years ago, the average life expectancy was about 18. So, and so that was really tough, taking care of these kids who were just wonderful kids, and not knowing that they didn't really have a chance. In the mid-90s, there were several breakthroughs in treatments that have really made tremendous progress, and so that now the life expectancy for a child born with CF is about 38 to 39. And with the new treatments that have come out just in the past 2 years, that is going to go up even more, and there's a new treatment out that'll come out sometime this year in 2015 that will treat over half the patients with cystic fibrosis. A child born with CF now who has the most common mutations will probably have close to a normal life expectancy.